UAW strike will be felt beyond Detroit. National Association of Manufacturers warns this is not good on what's going on over there. The National Association of Manufacturers has issued a warning about the United Auto Workers strike against Detroit's big three automakers, Ford, GM, and Stellantis. Stellantis is like Chrysler, Fiat, Jeep, highlighting the broader economic repercussions it may have beyond Detroit. NAM President Jay Timmons emphasized that the strike would affect the integrated supply chain of small and medium-sized manufacturers across the country, impacting both union and non-union shops and adding to the economic pressures caused by high inflation. The potential economic consequences of an extended strike are significant, with the estimates suggesting that a full shutdown of manufacturing operations at all three automakers for just 10 days could cost the U.S. economy $5.6 billion. Individual automakers facing production stoppages could incur weekly earning losses of, ready, $400 to $500 million. Tom, what is going on here?
Well, the first thing is, I think Rob can probably find a chart somewhere on this. The whole UAW hasn't gone on strike yet. This is just a subset.
13,000 of them.
Yes, this is the photo op.
The members, all members, is 400,000. This is 13,000 going on a strike.
So this is the photo op to say, we're freaking serious. And so here they come out for the photo op. But there's something else going on here. It's not like the big three didn't see the contract negotiations coming. And it's not like the big three don't know that in 2009, everybody except Ford, a CEO at the time, Alan Mulally, took U.S. money. You're nodding at him. I hope I'm getting that right. I think it was
during the recession, yes.
Yeah, and now it's not like the big three didn't get some assistance during COVID. They did. And they've rebounded and made some good profits, moved over to EVs. So they saw this coming, and maybe behind closed doors they were trying to give something. Maybe they weren't. But the UAW seems really pissed off, which is normally the way they wake up in the morning anyway. But to me, this is just the photo op. And yesterday the quote was, there could be more widespread impact of this. You saw that yesterday. It was
but have you seen what they're asking for, and have you seen what they offer?
Correct. Now comes the punchline. Stellantis Chrysler claims that they were on the right as these pickets were coming out. The photo op was starting, like the third day of it. Stellantis says, we went in and offered 21%, wage increase over, I think, 36 months. They were like, screw you. We want 40% over, was it over?
They want 36% over 4 years.
4 years.
So Ford and GM offered 20%, Stellantis 17.5%. Then they went to 21. Now they're asking for 36 because they're asking 36 because the CEO made 34% increase in her salary over the last 3 or 4 years, and they want the similar growth for increase in their salary as the CEO got. So it's a little bit of a pickle on how they want, because they're seeing what happened with what do you call it, the UPS strike, how successful they were.
Yeah,
great time to capitalize.
$100,000 driving a brown truck.
That's right. And Biden said. I'm going to be the biggest pro-union president of all time, and all these unions are seeing it as an opportunity to capitalize off of it, because the next guy may not be a pro-union guy.
And Obama came out of hiding and goes up there and says, they're making a lot of profits here, and I think it's time to give some of those back. And so he kind of threw a little bacon on the grease fire, 2 days ago, when he walked out. And so, there's something to be said. Is there a blend line here that says, hey, the auto industry bounced back a little bit, profits were up, is it time to negotiate this and do a little bit more for workers, especially at a time with high inflation? I think there is. But I also think that the UAW probably wasn't having any of it. You could have made the best offer you wanted for them, and I think they were heading out to strike.
Yeah, let me give maybe a little more context. My dad's from Detroit. My family's from Detroit. Like, I have family, friends in the Motor City, baby. I mean, you talk about the big three. When I had to look who the hell Stellantis, because it's Ford, it's GM, and all of a sudden it's Stellantis. If you remember, they're Daimler Chrysler. They merged, and it was part of a German company, Daimler Chrysler, whatever. But that's the big three. And for many, many years, this was what made America tick. Starting with Henry Ford and the initial car that he made, what is it called? The F, whatever it was called.
Model T.
Model T, there it is. So here's why it has implications of what's going on. Because if you're out there and be like, dude, I don't really give a shit about the United Auto Workers, I've never even heard of these guys. Here's why this matters. Number one, it's going to affect 2024 and the election. Why? Because Pat hit the nail on the head. Here's a main story from Wall Street Journal right now. UAW strike collides right with Biden's manufacturing agenda. So on one hand, Biden is very pro union, right? He's pro-union. On the other hand, he's talking about bringing manufacturing back, specifically in the EV sector, right? You did a whole case study on Tesla, what's going on, China, competitive markets, what's going on with that. So where is the UAW located, or where are these cars being built? Well, the Rust Belt, Michigan, okay, Pennsylvania, Ohio. These are what is known as battleground states in the election. I mean, 2008, 2012, they went Obama. 2016, they went Trump. 2020, they went back to Biden. This is arguably the most important part of the country when it comes to the electorate. So if you're like, I don't really give a shit about a car or whatever, it's going to affect the election if you appease these people or not, especially the union. So Biden, you know, he did everything with the Inflation Reduction Act, which was just sort of a mini Green New Deal, if you recall that. That's kind of how they factored in that. And he also did the CHIPS Act. So this is all kind of part of the manufacturing situation that's going on in America. All right, now let's get down to like why this matters to you beyond politically. So you hit the nail on the head. They want, I think, 40% raise over 4 years. They want a 32-hour work week. Interesting. Yeah. So they want to make more and work less.
They don't want a 32. They want to work 32 hours but get paid for 40 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's not they want a 32-hour work week. They want to get paid
Pat,
for 40 hours for 32 hours.
By the way, you know what? So do I, sir.
You know, that's like getting the great raise. That's like the great equalizer raise on top of your money raise.
But here's where this comes down to supply and demand, right? When we talk about raising the minimum wage, we're talking about, you know, fight for 15. What happens if you pay these guys more? Okay. So the car prices, if you've seen what's going on with the car prices, Pat, don't worry, I'm not going to start advocating everyone start Ubering, but you should. Car prices since COVID have gone up 25%. The average car payment for a new car in 2019 was what, $550? Now it's $750. Gas is at an all-time high, you know, dealing with that, everything with Ukraine, whatever with that.
Again, bouncing up again.
Putin price hike. That's
so
Putin
if you
price
pay
hike.
these guys more and they basically succumb to demands, how much more are they going to charge the consumers for cars and chips and auto and everything with that? So it's a really slippery slope. Last point here. You talk about how much it's costing if they go on a 10-day strike. If it costs the economy, it costs $5 billion a day. That's $15 to $20 billion a month that it would be costing the economy, supply chain, you know, trucks, drivers, everything that goes into that. But specifically, the auto industry could lose between 400 and 500 million a week. That's $2 billion a month. And the auto industry makes up 3% of America's total GDP.
Couple things here. Very good points, by the way. Rob, can you pull up that chart I sent you that I think Tom used on a recent case study here? So private sector union membership has declined sharply in the U.S. Look at this. 1972, Tom pointed out, it was at 24.2% on the private sector. Right now it's at 6%. What does this tell you? Americans are realizing, stay the hell out of my business, union. By the way, a couple things you got to be thinking about outside of this. Why is this such a big deal? So this UAW was founded by this guy named Walter Reuter. If you don't know this guy's history, he was the president for like 24 years. Insane guy. John F. Kennedy sent him to go negotiate with Castro on the, one of the hostages. LBJ leveraged this guy hardcore. Richard Nixon said the only way that John F. Kennedy won is by owing a guy like this a favor. This guy's like Jimmy Hoffa on steroids is who this guy is, Walter Reuter. He was killed. He had 2 attempts on assassination. He died on a plane crash. He's like a legit tough guy who was an incredible politician. If you hear him speak, you're going to say this guy could have run for office. He was that good at what he did. Walter Reuter, you can pronounce it many different ways. So here's what it gets technical. In the 88 years of this union being around. And remember, it's not just cars. It's 400,000 members because it's many different industries that are a part of it. It's not just cars we're talking about. It's, automotive, aerospace, and other industries. So we say auto workers, but it's a massive union. Started small and now it's massive. In the 88 years, there's never been a time where these 3 companies have simultaneously been targeted by a strike. Never in 88 years. Simultaneously. It's not been GM, Ford, and Stellantis. It's never happened before. So that's a big deal. Number 2, a total of 61 plants have been announced that they're going to be shut down. 61 So you got GM saying 33 on their end, idle plants. Ford's got 18, and you got Fiat Chrysler's going to have another 10. This is going to affect around 50,000 jobs, give or take. The economy is going to feel it. Now, the good news, bad news. What's the good news? The good news is the longest strike they've had in the recent years was in 2019. It lasted 40 days, okay? They're going to have to figure out a way to negotiate this. What's the bad news? The bad news is there's a guy named Bob Iger right now, and there's another strike going on with writers, what is it, Actors Guild
strike,
and actors that they've been going. I think writers been since May 12th, which is almost 4 months.
Wow.
Actors been since July 14th or something, so that's 2 months. Bill Maher wanted to bring his show back. I'm going to bring you back. I'm not going to bring you back. It's not going to be as good. Writers are going to be good. Drew Barrymore went through what she's going through. Right. And then UPS got what they got with the whole salary. They're going to make $100,000 to be a driver. So again, they're capitalizing today. The pressure is all on one party and one individual right now, okay? The party is the Democratic Party, and the individual is Joe Biden. Yesterday, Stephen King tweeted something out. If you can go on Twitter, Rob, I retweeted this guy. Yesterday, he said the following. Here's what he said yesterday on Twitter.
Stephen King, the writer?
Stephen King, the writer. Just go to my second tweet. If you go down a little bit right there. Zoom in right there. His tweet is, Mary Barra, CEO of General Motors, makes $29 million a year. I retweeted and I say, Stephen King, the king of horror, has estimated net worth of $500 million.
Wow.
Okay? So here's a guy that's a socialist worth $500 million talking shit about another girl.
A female
CEO of a Fortune 500 company making $29 million a year, which, by the way, good for them for making their money.
Good.
Here's a crazy thing to be thinking about. One of the reasons why I respected this guy named Bob and Moshe, AIG CEO, I was there when these guys went to the government and asked for $183 billion. When AIG was about to go out of business, the American International Group, the most hated company in America in 2009, 2010, it was so bad that they would tell us when you're selling insurance, don't say AIG, say American General. Don't use our logo. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
Bob and Moshe comes in. We're in Chicago at the Ritz-Carlton, I believe. We're having dinner. It's David Herzog, the CFO of AIG, who used to be the CFO, I believe, of American General, or was that? Anyways, but he was the CFO of AIG. If you type in David Herzog, CFO, you'll see the guy was making very good money. They come in, they ask for $183 billion from the government. This guy's got 3 years left to live, Bob and Moshe. He's on his deathbed, living at his vineyard in Croatia, Dubrovnik. Used to be the former CEO of MetLife, okay? What ends up happening? He comes back. They take the 183. They end up paying the 183 back and $21 billion of interest, give or take. And then he dies.
Wow.
The announcement was made at an award ceremony of ours on a Friday night time. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember it very clearly.
When Mark got up and he said, got some bad news for you. Bob Ben Moshe has just died. But his legacy lives on. So the part where Stephen King has a point is GM never paid the taxpayers back. And she's still making $29 million a year. So a socialist is trying to make a point, but unfortunately the point where he's right is the fact that the people that got money from the government, those are the same guys that haven't paid back, but AIG ended up paying back, and that guy's a true capitalist. There's a bunch of things going on here with UAW. What's going to end up happening here is there's a lot on the line with politics. I don't think this is going to go that long. I think they're going to figure this thing out fairly quickly. I think 20%, they're asking for 36%. You got to know what this means. If you're making $100,000 a year, you know where you're going to go to? 136. If you're making $30 an hour, you're going to go to $42 an hour, $41 an hour if they give you the 36. They'll eventually figure it out. Unlike Hollywood, where they're not caving, these guys will eventually have to cave.
Let me just give you hit the nail on the head with how much money they're making. The biggest potentially who can reap the benefits of all this is none other than our friend Elon Musk at Tesla. Why? Because they're not union. You did the whole thing at the CEO meeting of what we're going to do the meetings. Is it union? Is it not union? It was a very interesting dynamic. Here's how much the average worker gets paid in each of these companies. Ready? So this is according to the Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC, Gary Gensler out there. So the average pay for a GM worker, $80,000 a year for GM. The average pay for a Ford worker, $75,000 a year. Stellantis, Chrysler, $68,000 a year. So those are the big three. So you're making between 68 and 80. So I'll call it 70 to 80 grand. Interesting. According to the SEC, you know how much the average Tesla worker makes?
How much?
Half of that, 34 grand. 34 grand. So and now part of that is because they have factories in China, and Elon Musk has been sort of avoiding, unionized and right to work states. That's a whole other conversation that you've done that. But this is all part of the government mandated EV agenda, the EV race, what's going on with China, the US. You did a whole thing about it, but it's very interesting, and it has ramifications on your car and the politics.
By the way, I want to wrap it up with this and got to go to the next story because we're at 24 minutes in and we're at one story. Last thing I'll tell you about, you know what a union leader, a mother-in-law, and lawyers have in common? Union leaders, mother-in-law, and lawyers have in common. Let me give you a perspective. Mother-in-law comes in. Wife is there. She's spending time with the mother-in-law. Husband's at work. And she says, I don't know about Larry. He doesn't work as hard as Johnny does. Your sister's husband works very hard. And Larry's not a hard worker. And I don't appreciate what Larry does. I think Larry should treat you better. Mm-hmm. That bag you have, the Coach, why doesn't he buy you a Louis Vuitton? Because Johnny does.
Oh my God, I hate this mother-in-law already.
The wife is sitting there, and then the husband comes home. And when the husband comes home, she's like, hey, babe, how you doing? Wow, am I doing? Yeah. What do you think I was doing? All the cleaning the house, taking care of the kids? What kind of a husband are you? Why can't you give me the person
I want a Louis bag.
Vuitton like Johnny does? Yeah. And the husband's like, what are you talking about, bro?
What happened?
It's a long-ass day. Yeah. I want to deal with this thing. What are you talking about, babe? He has no clue what happened. Yeah. But it was the union leader, a.k.a. mother-in-law. Now let's talk about another one. Husband and wife are setting up a nuptial agreement, prenuptial agreement. They're about to get married. He has to get his lawyers. She has to get her lawyers because that's how the code works. Yeah. You can't get one lawyer to do the nuptial agreement. You need one on each side. Lawyers come in. Yeah, for only $3,000, we can get this done. It's not even a problem. It's only going to cost $3,000. Then you realize, here's the future bride. Here's the future groom. They're about to get married. All of a sudden, you realize the lawyers are on the same team. Uh-oh. Your lawyer's not on your team. Her lawyer's not on her team. The lawyers are on each other's team. Why? Because here's what they do. A wink. Let's start a fight. 22 additional hours times $400. Mm-hmm. Boom. Smart. I'm sorry, you got an $11,200 bill. It was supposed to be $3,000, but you fought for those miles and you fought for all this stuff, so it's not 11,000 miles. So what does union leaders do? Hey, it's not fair what your boss is doing. Not fair that they're doing what they're doing. Yeah. Think about what they're doing. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh my God, I have a horrible boss. Yeah. This is such a horrible situation I'm in. Yeah. Boom. All of a sudden, shit. The union leader is your mother-in-law. That's what's going on with these union leaders. So when you think about their job is to divide. Okay, when you think about many of the politicians on the games they're playing, their job is to divide, and then they conquer, and then they come in and say, Hey, Mr. Union Leader, I know you're so worried about us, and I'm having a hard time paying a membership. Pay the membership, but we're going to take care of you because we care about you. Yeah. But as long as you pay the membership and a portion of the side, but we care about you, and but you got to pay the membership. Can I go get another job because I really need to? You can't get another job. But no, you can't get another job because, we have to be loyal to one another. But I need to go start a show because I'm a talent. And if I don't create comedy, I don't work. What do? You got to be loyal to the union. You got to be good to the union. You understand what happens here? That's what's going on with the union.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.